it was like this. It was from Aiden and Spoon watching our conversation with Carl about liberalism, our third conversation I think we've had about him with him about liberalism, because we're both still in favor of liberalism, I guess. And Aiden and Spoon are not. They're kind of on the Mencius Moldbug. My understanding. I don't want to mischaracterize their positions.
A few moments later.
I don't know where Aiden is, but Spoon is kind of in this like mirror position of the communist, where basically anyone who's not a monarchist is like a far left winger, which is stupid and insane.
There might be a reason why I think he's a slimy son of a bitch. Oh, this is going to be one of those videos. But before I go further with this one, big shout out to Hard Bastard for having this on his stream, because it helped me to find the exact moment, because this only came to my attention after someone DM'd it to me on Discord. So cheers for that one, mate. Secondly, Dev, stop trying to bait me, you twat. I'm too old for this bollocks. I don't follow you, I'm not sub to you, I don't engage with anything you have to say unless other people message me, asking me to talk about the dumb shit you say. Knock it off. You know what pisses me off about this bloody Canadian? Months ago, I had no problem with him, but then I caught him lying about me on a live stream in real time. And it wasn't even a good lie, it was utterly pointless and unnecessary. Go look it up on my channel, it's called Lies, Lies and More Lies, something like that. If it wasn't for that crap, I probably would defend his stupid antics as just him being a mischievous wanker. But now, now he can fuck off. And so can Sitch for that matter. I mean, these people are all idiots, mind you. What Sitch said doesn't even make any sense. Have I ever come across like that to you guys? Most of my audience are not monarchists. If that was the case, I consider most of my own audience problematic. Bollocks trying to talk to you, I would just go full French Rev. Just instead of the king's head, it'll be everybody else's. Far as I'm aware, I've not advocated for genocide. I get the impression these nitwits don't really watch much of my content. Seems to be an insane caricature. Very strange people, but anyway. I swear this all kicked off into another gear when I threw this tweet out about centrists about a month ago. This wasn't even aimed at anyone, but of course the drama lump of a Canadian decided to run with it. And what pissed me off is a bunch of people messaged me and said Dev had a point. My attitude was to tell them all to go to hell, they're insane. No one asked me to elaborate on my position, mind you. No. Dev was the one that had the point. And given that he said on Archer's stream he thinks that the dissident right is somehow more communist than he is, I feel pretty vindicated that those people were all wrong in their assessment and Dev is a freaking goofball. But anyway, let's get back to Sitch. Let's see what else he had to say, shall we?
And I actually, on Twitter, we had an interaction where I challenged him. I said, can you name one position? You're accusing me of getting a payoff here because you're saying that since I started doing YouTube, I've like moved so much further to the left. Can you give me one example of one position that I've moved further to the left on since starting YouTube? And he failed to do anything, regarding any of that.
How about, instead of listening to the shadowy bastard Yank, we listen to the South African monarchist? I feel that is far more productive, seeing as that is not what I said. Here is what I actually said. No, word on the street is him and the Californian lackey got paid to push leftist talking points, and so now their IQ is down by standard deviation and they fillet the regime at every turn. As you can see there, I said, you got paid to push leftist talking points. That doesn't mean you personally have moved positions. You can believe one thing personally and say something else entirely when there is a microphone in front of your face, like when you have a financial incentive to do so. That's kind of how that works. I would have thought that was quite clear. Now, this is where it gets kind of weird. So according to a random kitchen utensil and Aiden Paladin, Brianna Wu has been paying me and Friended forever to become secret woke leftists. Wish they would hurry up with this month's paycheck. I got bills to pay. Yes, haha, very funny. And I said, I never mentioned Wu, care to explain why you did? Now, chaps, here's the thing. I don't know about all of you guys, but when someone throws an accusation my way and I know it's complete bollocks, my immediate, almost reflexive response would be to just say, present your evidence, and then ignore them because they would fail. But trying to discredit the accusation by calling me some random utensil, that comes across as kinda shady. Especially if you could just go, where did you hear that? Present your case. The choice of rebuttal seems kind of off. And note the last bit on the tweet. They fillet the regime at every turn. That's the money shot. No pun intended, of course. Now, if you guys know me, I never once said the state is leftist. Around here, we constantly harp on about the uniparty and how both sides will get together and screw everyone else, and stupid and evil, bipartisanship and all of that. So this left and right dichotomy to us is complete nonsense. Now, in the interest of transparency, lest I be accused of cherry-picking over here, I will link the original thread and you guys can peruse it at your leisure. So I went with arguably the most obvious regime move, the war in Ukraine and believing Biden is not corrupt. Why that is good, who the hell knows, but anyway. He now claims Biden isn't corrupt and also thinks Trump is. Why he says that, who the hell knows, and then some more unnecessary snark. And when I pressed him, because myself and Aiden were on their show debating this, he openly said Joe isn't corrupt, but Hunter is. How that makes any sense whatsoever, who the hell knows? I think that's insane given that Hunter said this.
If your last name wasn't Biden, do you think you would have been asked to be on the board of Burisma?
I don't know. Probably not.
He said now he's changed his mind and he wouldn't be surprised if he got money, saying it's an issue he moved further right on. I didn't realize seeing and acknowledging corruption is a right-wing issue. That one is news to me, admittedly. Here I thought it's apolitical, but hey, what the hell do I know? So I ask, what exactly since we spoke to you did you see to make you make that shift? Because if you move from point A to B, naturally, there must be something driving you from point A to B. And look, once again, more snark doesn't answer the question, why? This isn't offensive, this is not an interrogation. Why the defensiveness? Now keep in mind, this is a man that defended Viktor Shokin, the Ukrainian prosecutor, getting fired because he wasn't investigating corruption and apparently he himself was corrupt. Please, cut the crap. We're all adults here. This is democratic politics. Everyone is corrupt. This BS is simply replacing their flavor of corruption with one more suited to your interests. Give me a bloody break. America chastising someone for not investigating corruption is like the world's fattest bastard chastising someone for not going on a diet. It's bollocks. But let's run with this one, shall we? If I pull up this article over here, timeline, key dates in the US political controversy over in Ukraine. This is from Reuters. It's not the Federalist, it's not Breitbart, it's not Fox News or Post Millennial, right? 2015, we have Biden withholding funds for Ukraine if corruption isn't taken care of, which is rather funny. I'm under the impression Trump did the exact same thing. Oh wait, no, Biden announced he was running for president a couple of months prior to the phone call, and therefore any investigation of corruption is political. Never mind any actual corruption. No, because you know investigations of corruption within politics is exclusively a third world phenomenon. We in the first world don't do any of that. We just let the corruption slide because we are far more civilized, apparently. Now, Viktor Shokin is fired. In 2019, Hunter steps down from Burisma, and a month later, the top prosecutor says there was no evidence of wrongdoing by Hunter or his father. What a coincidence that is. So, according to Sitch, the problem is corruption. He admits Joe probably got some money. No shit, his son was only on the board because of his father being VP. That much is obvious by now. And yet this prosecutor saw no wrongdoing. Which would lead any sane person to speculate, according to Sitch's own logic, this new prosecutor is also corrupt. But the outrage is always very selective, isn't it? The point here is that people will look the other way when it's corruption on their side. Another one was his support for affirmative action, with him saying it was once justified but not anymore. And this was when they were speaking to Dave the Distributist.
That's why I'm
literally in this very stream I've given you policies that I would implement if I had.
And then I said, if those are the policies that you're implementing under a liberal framework of liberalism, why the did we spend the entire part of this conversation earlier talking about why liberalism doesn't work? You're talking about both sides. I don't think.
It did not go well. And before anyone accuses me of choosing some incendiary clip, bear in mind that's the start of their own video. My position is that AA was once justified but not anymore. I said that in that convo.
So I'll answer the question, because affirmative action and CRT are fundamentally different in that the belief behind affirmative action was still within liberal principles of we want to work towards a colorblind society.
And I think that, if you listen to the people who originally created this stuff like affirmative action, they sold this as a temporary measure, a temporary bending of the rules. They understood that this was not part of the rules. So that
they understood it was outside the framework of liberalism and individual rights. I agree.
I do believe your position on this matter is not particularly well thought out. And when I probed why it was once justified, radio silence on the Twitter. And I watched the debate. At no point did you say why it is no longer justified. The most generous interpretation I can give is the bit I just played. But do explain why the top-like comment on that video is this one right here, taking the piss out of your position.
Well, no, but go back to the, because you're making an argument about how it ruins the framework, the philosophy of liberalism. But you can't say that when the country wasn't operating from that space in the beginning. It has to do something to address the harms and address the fact that it wasn't living up to its principles. Now, whether affirmative action will actually work or not is another story. I don't know if it will. But it doesn't break the philosophy of liberalism in America just because we have affirmative action.
And I think that, if you listen to the people who originally created this stuff like affirmative action, they did not. They sold this as a temporary measure, a temporary bending of the rules. They understood that this was not part of the rules. So that
they understood it was outside the framework of liberalism and individual rights. I agree.
That is a direct contradiction to what he said earlier.
Oh, sorry. We've been doing it for 50. Pardon me. You say that like we haven't been doing it for half a century.
That's why I said I don't know if it will work or not.
Not gonna lie, I feel like I'm being kind of cruel at this point. Anyway, let's keep it going.
Well, I think it's shown very little evidence of fixing the underlying problems in this case.
Yeah, on its own, it doesn't seem to have fixed anything. Sure.
Really? No shit. And your solution to this mythical problem is then what?
Okay, but what then happens is the people who are in charge of fixing this problem go, okay, well, obviously this isn't working, so we have to take it another step, right? We have to do more disparate impact. We have to crack down more on this stuff,
right?
And like they keep on keep on relaxing liberal principles and expanding.
And that's where you say no, we're not doing the slippery slope. We're stopping here. Yeah.
Okay, but then so then what the problem is that we made this promise that's not being fulfilled, and that's really and it seems like all of this effort has gone to a great waste. And moreover, a lot of the benefits not a lot of the gains we have made, like if we got rid of affirmative action, they would bleed away instantly. And that can't be discounted.
I guess I'm not clear exactly what you're saying, except that affirmative action doesn't work, which is neither here nor there, in my opinion, in this conversation. But
do you guys smell that? We call that cope. Jeez, I wonder why he didn't answer my question of when it stops being necessary. When it failed to deliver, it must stop at this magical point of when exactly. The lack of specificity does drive me insane. Now, let me condense that whole struggle session of a discussion into a few words, because it's not very hard, and being South African, I can bypass all of the BS and just hit it home raw and heavy. You can believe whatever the hell you want with this nonsensical American philosophical idealism, but remember, it is just that, idealism. Divorce yourself from these absurd notions and just examine society apolitically, because to believe in the American ideal is to believe in the universal man and blank slate theory. Any rational person, provided they can divorce themselves from the possibility of social repercussions for uttering what I'm about to say, would tell you it is absolutely insane to think that if you give everyone this nebulous concept of freedom, you're somehow going to achieve a racial equilibrium in society. Anyone who thinks this is a nut job. Groups and people have vast differences between them. Their beliefs, their desires, their temperament, aggression, intelligence, morality, work ethic, life philosophy, what they're taught to value, etc., etc. And these differences will manifest. Hell, they will manifest in homogeneous societies. Introduce another variable, now we just have even more problems, and useless opportunists trying to exploit the situation and justify the growth of the state, trying to remedy a plight that any honest person can plainly see is not an issue of politics. Sure as hell can be exacerbated by politics, as the last 50 years has clearly shown. And the other examples were, if you don't oppose the rainbow hippies, you're drifting leftward by default, and the last one was a shot at their worldview. Now, people often ask me for books, literature, what do I read to get the perspectives that I do. Frankly, I don't think my views are all that deep either, to be honest, but anyway. One thing I would highly recommend people do: drop all of these political labels. Forget things like fascism, communism, liberalism, all of these garbage philosophical terms. Throw them in the bin where they belong. Because in our time, They've become so ubiquitous and distorted, used for political posturing rather than honest conversations. They're more of a hindrance than a boon at this point. Perhaps I'm being too harsh, by all means study them I suppose, but do not bring them up in parlance because it really just is a spanner in the works at this point. If you really want to know what's going on, study power. Read Aristotle, read Carl Schmitt, read James Burnham, Samuel T. Francis, read Leiden just because he's a great writer, Paul Gottfried, Jacques Ellul. Because the problem is, when you wed yourselves to these abstract concepts that ascribe to being fixed, you're essentially studying structures stuck in time and places, narrowing your perspectives in the process. What you want to be able to do is to leave what you can call the cult of Overton and adopt methodologies by which you can critique the system from outside the current framework. It's much more fun for one. It's also a lot more disorientating and disturbing, again fun times, because I've watched these two for many hours, and you could see this especially during the show with Dave, and the one years ago with Sargon when they spoke about Russia, or the recent one when it came to liberalism and he spat with James Lindsay. They're very Americanized, and as such do not possess a great deal of depth to their worldviews. They're actually very narrow-minded in that regard. And when Sargon brought up that liberty and equality are contradictory values, there's this long pause with Sitch responding, "How so?" Equality is found nowhere in nature. Equality is exclusively a product of force. Freedom is the absence of force. Of course they're contradictory. And again, I've read Liberty or Equality, The Challenge of Our Time, so I'm clued in here. But again, very Americanized. They have a model they've lived under. They've been heavily propagandized into thinking ill of anything else outside of this, which they regard as borderline blasphemous to them. In Sitch's mind, for example, it is inconceivable for a king to grant liberty. But Adam especially, his brand of midwittery is very much on display during these kinds of conversations. And this is not meant to be mean, by the way, this is just an observation. It's a product of an incredibly entrenched, isolated perspective of the world. If you've heard him speak, he's borderline obsessed with capitalism and democracy. In his mind, these two things make up the apex of human civilization. The ability to pick your representatives and mindlessly consume yourself into a coma. He has no higher ideals than this, and is incapable of conceptualizing a human being who doesn't adhere to this. There was a moment when they spoke to Dave where one of them brought up a Catholic theocracy, and predictably, Adam is horrified by this, thinking it's horribly oppressive and illiberal. Yet to you, because in your mind, any structure that impedes your capacity to indulge in mindless degeneracy is somehow a shackle. To a Catholic, though, who wishes to, pray outside of a church without facing repercussions at the hands of the state, a Catholic theocracy is infinitely more liberating than the current state of England. You really should get to know your content creators' personalities. What do they value to get a clue why they think what they do? Take a look at me, I'm South African. One look at my homeland, if you had any sense at all, realizing why I would greatly value an autocrat is not really all that much of a stretch. But someone says they value capitalism and democracy, where you can vote and you have private property. That tells me jack shit about your society. Hell, that doesn't even tell me how your political class rule, just that they can be chosen. Nor does capitalism tell me anything about how your people live either. Oh, we have liberty and freedom. Who cares? That's not a value, that's a variable. You have freedom. To do what? Why is that good? And why should you have this? What does your civilization do with this freedom? What do you do with your freedom? Oh, you can consume to your heart's content. Oh, work with joy. That's not a civilization. That's a hedonistic pit of decadent degeneracy and no more. A vat of mindless consumerism. Said it before and I'll say it again. The market is not a moral agent. It's just a response to desire. It can't regulate behavior beyond consumption. Something deeper with more substance is needed to keep a civilization stable and its social order cohesive. Alas, I do believe their message will go over the heads of far too many of the atoms. Oh, one last thing I almost forgot.
So who was getting paid and what were people getting paid for? What is this even about?
It's about a group called Progressive Victory.
Mm-hmm.
That basically, when I was working with Progressive Victory, there was basically, there's a problem on the left that everyone spends so much time chasing their tails, that there's a real need for leadership and for people to come together and to kind of decide what stories are important and to kind of bring everyone together to chase like one car down the street rather than 500 different cars. So basically, people were paid a fee to basically sit on a leadership committee and talk about the major stories for the week. And we would sit there and figure out what was important, what the good, strong messaging would be. And we would look at clips that people had put out that we thought resonated with the core values of the organization, and we would help promote them. So, 100% above board, very normal. I hate to break it to y'all, this is happening on Twitch. TikTok, 1 trillion times worse. This is politics.
There were Twitch politics streamers doing this with you, basically?
Yeah.
Hosting someone who openly admits they have a pact that they used to pay political streamers with. Geez, the accusations seem totally far-fetched now. Cheers for watching, and once again, I apologize for nothing.